Hey guys, Poro here with the second match of the World's 2025 quarterfinals, this time for KT versus CFO. I actually think this was a pretty good draw for both teams, as both probably were looking at a quarterfinals exit unless they drew each other. As an LCP representative, I will of course be cheering for CFO, but I also have just been genuinely impressed enough by their gameplay at this tournament that I also predicted CFO to win today. I think CFO can come out with some strong firepower, but I'm worried about their champion pools against a more versatile team like KT if the series goes late. Either way, I'll be excited to see who can win the series and match up against Gen.G in semifinals. Game 1 was a KT stomp. This is the CFO I know from domestic play, as the team fought everything early with relatively no regard for game conditions. Braum is one of the strongest level 1 champs, and Peter walked in super aggressively level 1 with his team, which caught Doggo off guard and forced him to start W. With this, the Braum lane was actually able to get push early, which means KT is first to move to the black crab. Junja decided to fight for the crab anyway, and Peter went in with a flash Q to kick off the fight as CFO started off with a heavy disadvantage. CFO, not being ones to back down, made the call to show up to Grubs to fight again, and this time it was actually pretty close. Junja's flash here is really bad and leads to him being pretty useless in this one, but Driver's combo was very good and he manages to get one back. As for KT, I liked how Cuz and BDD played this one, especially Cuz with the clean heist.
The grabs call to the forge god from Driver, lands the knock up onto 2, but he's so low, gets another double knock, unbreakable, is not...
CFO square up to fight again for the second Drake, but KT easily zoned them off and get the objective for free, and then Peter finds a nice flash engage to get KT 2 exit kills off the play. This is one of those objective attempts that really bothered me from CFO domestically. Driver is top with no teleport, yet CFO are trying to walk in to fight 4v5 with no setup and no vision. I'm not sure what's going on in their heads when they call a play like this, but they consistently do it in a lot of their games and it almost never goes well for them. Both teams show up to fight the Herald, and this one is a pretty close one. Driver goes onto Braum for a chunk, but Doggo makes a positioning mistake as he W's closer to the Braum to output damage, and Peter throws his ult at Corki to force the flash as he's sectioned off and killed shortly after. HoloCure plays the fight great though and manages to get some kills back for CFO, and it ends up being a 2 for 3 in favor of KT. CFO would take their final somewhat contestable teamfight on 3rd Drake, as they actually had setup for it, but this would be the straw that broke the camel's back. It looks okay for CFO at first, as Junja gets the dragon and flashes out. It seems like maybe CFO can walk this one out and have only Driver die and trade for the Drake, but Perfect lands an excellent equalizer which finds 2 more kills, and then Doggo and Kaiwing step up to defend a tier 2 and get Dove, which results in a clean 5 for 0 ace. From here, KT had a dominant game state. There were a few oopsies here and there though, and the late game wasn't clean from them. Cuz ended up wasting ult on mid one time, and this wasted ult would actually give CFO a lot of map pressure to set up vision topside, and this vision would allow them to catch Peter asleep at the wheel in Baron Pit, and this would turn into a winning situation for CFO as they went 2 for 3. CFO show up for the Dragon Soul, but this would be the end of the game, as even though the first half of the fight went poorly for KT, BDD would completely outplay HoloCure and Junja in the back half, and KT would ace CFO yet again. I thought overall this was a super clean game from BDD on the Talia, and I liked what I saw from Cuz and Peter for the most part. Perfect had some really good equalizers despite some mediocre teamfights at times, so I gave him the extra half-star nod as well. As for CFO, this was their problems exemplified perfectly. They don't know when to drop an objective, and for the most part they don't know how to win games other than hands diffing people on objectives. Driver and HoloCure were fine, but it was a pretty ugly game from Junja and not an impressive showing from the bot lane either. I think CFO really needed to win Game 1, and I'm worried for their chances to take the series now. If you thought Game 1 was a stomp, wait till you see what happened in Game 2. I don't know if I've seen a dismantling this bad at the entirety of Worlds 2025 yet. The game actually looked pretty good for CFO for all of 3 minutes. HoloCure laned the first few waves better than BDD in a matchup he should lose early, but he got his flash blown by a roam from Peter, and this would start a domino effect of epic proportions. People sometimes ask why I weigh early game plays so much heavier than late game ones, and it's because of games like this. In theory, if you get an advantage like this, there are clear ways in which you should be able to progress the game forward, and the only way the enemy team can come back is if either you make a mistake, or if the enemy team has better hands than you in fights. What would happen for the next 10 minutes would be the Peter highlight reel of all highlight reels, as KT would completely blast CFO in lane rotations and map movements for the entire rest of the game, not even giving CFO a chance to do anything.
From Perfect, death charge onto HoloCure as well, but Junja...
You could end up looking for him, especially with someone like Kaiwing. But there we go!
Depth charge! They get the knock up, the quickness comes out, but it's not in time! Oh, Junja. He starts up the red, there's the hook, and Junja in the jungle center.
And now that they have the lead, they're just snowballing it out of control.
They've got death charge here.
Exactly, he's just going to go right down. He's going to get stopped. You just flag it.
Flag comes out. Peter will have another hook. He's just standing there. He's like, what are you going to do, HoloCure? Depth charge down. They'll look for the engage, a Cataclysm alongside.
There's not even anything left to say. KT had map pressure for the entire rest of the game, and they never gave it up as Peter and Cuz kept dunking on the players of CFO in play after play. I also wanted to give BDD credit here, as he was part of every single kill in the game, and he also absorbed every CFO attempted engage perfectly. I'm gonna be honest, this one looks like it's wraps for CFO. Maybe they can take a game back with a good early game and a winning draft or something, but 3 games looks like almost an impossibility based on how much cleaner KT look. I don't even know what else CFO could have actually done in this one. If Kaiwing was faster to the mid play at 3 minutes, then maybe it would have been CFO with the lead, but that's not what we got, and KT never gave CFO room to breathe after that. Perfect inted one time while his team was on resets, but it amounted to absolutely nothing anyways. If CFO also get blasted in Game 3, I'll be sad to see my LCP boys go out like this. Game 3 was the closest CFO would get to a win, but it still wasn't very close. CFO looked completely mentally gapped for the first half of this one, as they had 2 pretty bad plays right from the get-go. First, HoloCure definitely should have gotten his flash blown here, but Cuz went for a flash predict with his stun, which meant Hui got to walk out scot-free, but it's definitely shaky that Hui could ever be gankable on this timer, since it's just Viego crossing from top scuttle to his Raptor respawn. Then, right after this, Junja and Rest have a free kill on Sion top lane, but Junja completely screws up the combo as he flashes over Sion before pressing E, missing the guaranteed wall stun. Technically, nothing bad with the game state has happened for CFO yet, but it feels like something will go horribly wrong at a moment's notice, and that's what we would get as Peter found a nice combo onto HoloCure in the Grub standoff, which allowed KT to win the first team fight of the game. HoloCure then respawned, teleported bot lane, got hit with a Zoe bubble, and was immediately one-shot. This would actually just be a terrible game from HoloCure from start to finish for the most part. Just 1 minute later, he would die again as BDD set up a nice bush play to extend his already massive lead even further. The game looks pretty over at this point, but Junja actually catches Doc Dom sleeping in mid lane and gets a huge shutdown, and then CFO decide it's now or never as they slow chase the rest of KT all the way to the Krugs before grabbing yet another kill. This sequence actually completely equalizes the gold lead for CFO, and now there's a chance for them. CFO roll up to the 3rd Drake, but KT aren't pressuring at all with the Ziggs or Zoe, and everyone gets into the pit unscathed. BDD walks away from the fight to engage in a 1v1 with Caitlyn where he misses everything, and Junja is able to get into the pit and steal away the Drake. CFO win the fight and take the Rift Herald, and when the dust settles, it's actually CFO who now have the slight gold lead. This lead would be short-lived, as KT punched back with a nice bubble snipe from BDD to one-shot Kaiwing, and the Skarner whiffs to seal Junja's fate as well. To add insult to injury, Rest goes in to try to one-shot the low HP Ziggs, but KT turn onto him as well and he goes down without even securing that kill. It's now KT back in the driver's seat yet again, and Peter would actually make a pretty big mistake right after this on Otacon. Kaiwing hits him with a Bartle, and he gets one shot while KT are just finishing their resets, and CFO pick up a free objective. The Drake is spawning though, and CFO feel pressured to get this as well, so they make a stand here and fight for it. BDD starts off by getting one shot by a Caitlyn trap, but Cuz answers back with a kill onto HoloCure. At this point, the fight could keep going as normal, and KT attempt to chase the Skarner to no avail. Junja makes a huge mistake though by stepping back too early, and he gets one shot through CC before Rek'Sai gets there, and Cuz ends up getting 2 more kills relatively easily. In the last important team fight of the game, Junja goes for a flash snap engage onto Cuz, but Peter makes the hero play by knocking Skarner back right before the ult would have connected onto Viego. This botched engage attempt gives KT 2 more kills, a Baron buff, and an easy path to Infernal Soul before they wipe CFO one more time and close out the series with a dominant 3-0. So, I was completely wrong on my prediction for the series. I'll admit I got pulled into the CFO hype train a little bit after their BO1 wins against AL and T1, but I think the biggest reason why I missed the mark on this one was because I underestimated KT. While their individual players made a few mistakes here and there, the macro game from this team was just on a completely different plane of existence from CFO. Not one time was CFO even able to escape lane phase without being at a significant deficit, and it felt like their biggest strength of teamfighting was never able to be put to proper use. I think this is the best I've seen Peter play. He's been around for a while in the LCK, and my opinion of him was always pretty middling, but he was running circles around CFO today and was controlling the pace of all 3 games very well for the most part. I did not think Peter had this type of series in him, so props for that. As for CFO, it seems like they have a long way to go before they can challenge any LCK teams. They beat the LEC number 1 seed in a best of 5 at MSI, and the LTA 1 seed in a best of 3 at Worlds, but I guess the gap between the LCK 4 seed and every other region not named the LPL is a lot bigger this year than I expected. It was fun watching this team play, but their weaknesses have now all been exposed. Their objective setups are not good, and when they finally got to play an extended series against a team with solid mechanics, their laning and early game plans did not hold up either. I guess with the power of hindsight, you could say that CFO beating T1 was partially due to the fact that multiple players on the team were battling illnesses IRL, and their game win against AL was also when AL were trying a very experimental draft. Either way though, quarterfinals is a solid result for the LCP's first year, and I'll be excited to see how the region looks in 2026. Heading into tomorrow, we have G2 versus Top Esports. This series could really just be Top Esports versus Top Esports though, as I think we have all the information needed to take a guess at how this series should go. Top Esports on paper have been a much better team than G2 all year, and I think G2 has not looked the best in their Worlds matches so far either. In fact, we saw Top Esports dismantle G2 early on in Swiss stage in the best of 1 phase already. However, we've seen Top Esports do a lot of choking so far as well. They looked terrible against KT, even worse against Genji, and couldn't even pull it together properly in their win against BLG. If G2 managed to win tomorrow, I wouldn't even be surprised. That said, I'll still go Top Esports 3-1. I actually originally had Top Esports 3-2, but I thought about it a bit more and I think a Top Esports 3-2 is very unlikely. Either Top Esports will show up and they'll stomp G2 severely, or they'll choke and lose. I think in the world where Top Esports do show up, they'll still find a way to throw one game anyway since that's what they normally do, but if Top Esports are bad enough that G2 can win 2 games, it'll probably be a G2 3-0. That's all I have for you for this one. I have a Patreon for people who want to support me more while I'm making these videos. There are 3 tiers, each with varying amounts of benefits, including different types of behind the scenes content, and even a custom Poro drawing that I'll display in video outros. If that interests you, check out the Patreon link in the description. I'll see you all for the next one. Bye!